All right, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday, beautiful people. Ooh, 5 days away. We can be heroes if just for one day. All right, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. It is December the 14th, 2021, day 100. Let's start over. Happy Tuesday. It is December the 14th, 2021, day 327 of year 3 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, another 3-year consecutive day count, day 995. Today we're reading the rest of Proverbs. Then tomorrow we're going to start in Maccabees. We're reading Proverbs 28, 29, and 30. And since there's one more chapter left, we're just going to go ahead and add that to today's daily reading. So instead of doing 3, we're going to do 4, and we're going to read Proverbs chapter 31. Everybody's familiar with that chapter. Then we're going to hop on over to Jesus Never Existed, and we're going to read a little bit more of that. We should be done with this in a few days, and then we'll start on our new book. All right, beautiful people. So let's go ahead and do the Shema chapter. Ma shalom, shalom. Pull this up. Six. Yes, Deuteronomy 6. All right, beautiful people. A call to wholehearted commitment. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah your God commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy, and you and your children and grandchildren must fear Yahuwah your God as long as you live. If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as Yahuwah, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, he is God alone. And you must love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're on the road, when you're going to bed and when you're getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Yahuwah will soon bring you into the land he swore to give to you when he made a vow to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig, and you will eat from vineyards and olive trees you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget Yahuwah, who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must fear Yahuwah your God and serve him. When you take an oath, You must use only his name. You must not worship any of the gods of the neighboring nations, for Yahuwah your God, who lives among you, is a jealous God. His anger will flare up against you, and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must diligently obey the commands of Yahuwah your God, all the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in Yahuwah's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that Yahuwah swore to give to your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as Yahuwah said you would. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah our God has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but Yahuwah brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. Yahuwah did miraculous wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt, Pharaoh, and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give our ancestors. And Yahuwah our God commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear him, so he can continue to bless and preserve our lives as he has done to this day. For we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands Yahuwah our God has given us. Shayla, hey girl, hey. Okay, beautiful people. Let's get right to it. Let's get into it. Proverbs 28. The wicked run away when no one is chasing them, but the godly are as bold as lions. When there is moral rot within a nation, its government topples easily, but wise and knowledgeable leaders bring stability. A poor person who oppresses the poor is like a pounding rain that destroys the crops. To reject the law is to praise the wicked. To obey the law is to fight them. Evil people don't understand justice, but those who follow Yahuwah understand completely. Better to be poor and honest than to be dishonest and rich. Young people who obey the law are wise. Those with wild friends bring shame to their parents. Grand rising, auntie. Income from charging high interest rates will end up in the pocket of someone who is kind to the poor. Yahuwah detests the prayers of a person who ignores the law. Those who lead good people along a path of evil will fall into their own trap, but the honest will inherit good things. Rich people may think they are wise, but a poor person with discernment can see right through them. When the godly succeed, everyone is glad. When the wicked take charge, people go into hiding. People who conceal their sins will not prosper, but if they confess and turn from them, they will receive mercy. Blessed are those who fear to do wrong, but the stubborn are headed for serious trouble. A wicked ruler is dangerous to the poor, as a roaring lion or an attacking bear. A ruler with no understanding will oppress his people, but one who hates corruption will have a long life. A murderer's tormented conscience will drive him into the grave. Don't protect him. The blameless will be rescued from harm, but the crooked will be suddenly destroyed. A hard worker has plenty of food, but a person who chases fantasies ends up in poverty. The trustworthy person will get a rich reward, but a person who wants quick riches will get into trouble. Showing partiality is never good, yet someone will do wrong for a mere piece of bread. Greedy people try to get rich quick, but don't realize they're headed for poverty. In the end, people appreciate honest criticism far more than flattery. Anyone who steals from his father and mother and says, "What's wrong with that?" is no better than a murderer. Greed causes fighting. Trust in Yahuwah leads to prosperity. Those who trust in their own insight are foolish, but anyone who walks in wisdom is safe. Whoever gives to the poor will lack nothing, but those who close their eyes to poverty will be cursed. When the wicked take charge, people go into hiding. When the wicked meet disaster, the godly flourish. Next chapter, Proverbs chapter 29. Whoever stubbornly refuses to accept criticism will suddenly be destroyed beyond recovery. When the godly are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked are in power, they groan. The man who loves wisdom brings joy to his father, but if he hangs around with prostitutes, his wealth is wasted. A king gives stability. A just king gives stability to his nation, but one who demands bribes destroys it. To flatter friends is to lay traps for their feet. Evil people are trapped by sin, but the righteous escape, shouting for joy. The godly care about the rights of the poor, the wicked don't care at all. Mockers can get a whole town agitated, but the wise will calm anger. If a wise person takes a fool to court, there will be ranting and ridicule, but no satisfaction. A bloodthirsty hate, the bloodthirsty hate blameless people, but the upright seek to help them. Fools vent their anger, but the wise quietly hold it back. If a ruler pays attention to liars, all his advisors will be wicked. The poor and the oppressor have this in common. Yahuwah gives sight to the eyes of both. If a king judges the poor fairly, his throne will last forever. To discipline a child produces wisdom, but a mother is disgraced by an undisciplined child. When the wicked are in authority, sin flourishes, but the God will live to see their downfall. Discipline your children, and they will give you peace of mind and will make your heart glad. When people do not accept divine guidance, they run wild. But whoever obeys the law is joyful. Words alone will not discipline a servant. The words may be understood, but they are not heeded. There is more hope for a fool than for someone who speaks without thinking. A servant pampered from childhood will become a rebel. An angry person starts fights. A hot, a hot-tempered person commits all kinds of sin. Pride ends in humiliation, while humility brings honor. If you assist a thief, you only hurt yourself. You are sworn to tell the truth, but you dare not testify. Fearing people is a dangerous trap, but trusting Yahuwah means safety. Many seek the ruler's favor, but justice comes from Yahuwah. The righteous despise the unjust, the wicked despise the godly. Next chapter, Proverbs chapter 30. The sayings of Agur. The sayings of Agur, son of Jackie, contains this message. I am weary, O Yah. I am weary and worn out, O Yah. I am too stupid to be human, and I lack common sense. I have not mastered human wisdom, nor do I know the Holy One. But who but Yahuwah goes up to heaven and comes back down? Who holds the wind in his fist? Who wraps the ocean in his cloak? Who has created the whole wide world? What is his name and his son's name? Tell me if you know. Every word of Yahuwah proves true. He is a shield to all who come to him for protection. Do not add to his words, or he may rebuke you and expose you as a liar. O Yahuwah, I beg two favors from you. Let me have them before I die. First, help me to never tell a lie. Secondly, neither give me poverty nor riches. Give me just enough to satisfy my needs. For if I grow rich, I may deny you and say, who is Yah? And if I am poor, I may steal and thus insult Yahuwah's holy name. Never slander a worker to the employer, or the person will curse you and you will pay for it. Some people curse their father and do not thank their mother. They are pure in their own eyes, but are filthy and unwashed. They look proudly around, casting disdainful glances. They have teeth like swords and fangs like knives. They devour the poor from the earth and the needy from among humanity. The leech has two suckers that cry out, more, more. There are 3 things that are never satisfied. No, 4 that never say enough: the grave, the barren womb, the thirsty desert, and the blazing fire. The eye that mocks a father and despises a mother's instruction will be plucked out by ravens of the valley and eaten by vultures. There are 3 things that amaze me. No, 4 things that I do not understand: how an eagle glides through the sky, how a snake slithers on a rock, how a ship navigates the ocean, and how a man loves a woman. An adulterous woman consumes a man and then wipes her mouth and says, "What's wrong with that?" There are 3 things that make the earth tremble. No, 4 it cannot endure: a slave who becomes a king, an overbearing fool who prospers, a bitter woman who finally gets a husband, and a servant girl who supplants her mistress. There are 4 things on earth that are small but unusually wise. Ants. They aren't strong, but they store up food all summer. Hyraxes. They aren't powerful, but they make their homes among the rocks. Locusts. They have no king, but they march in formation. Lizards. They are easy to catch, but they are even found in kings' palaces. There are 3 things that walk with a stately stride. No, 4 that strut about. The lion, king of animals who won't turn aside for anything, a strutting rooster, a male goat, and a king as he leads his army. If you have been a fool by being proud or plotting evil, cover your mouth in shame. As beating of cream yields butter, and striking the nose causes bleeding, so stirring up anger causes quarrels. Joy, grand rising, shalom, mishpocha. Who is one? Yes and amen. Last chapter for today, y'all. Last chapter of Proverbs. The sayings of King Lemuel. The sayings of King Lemuel contain this message, which his mother taught him. O my son, son of my womb, O son of my vows, do not waste your strength on women, on those who ruin kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, to guzzle wine. Rulers should not crave alcohol, for if they drink, they may forget the law and not give justice to the oppressed. Alcohol is for the dying, and wine for those in bitter distress. Let them drink to forget their poverty and remember their troubles no more. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed. Yes, speak up for the poor and the helpless and see that they get justice. The last half of this chapter, starting with verse 10, now begins to address as a wife of noble character. Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is more precious than rubies. Her husband can trust her, and she will greatly enrich his life. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She finds wool and flax and busily spins it. She is like a merchant's ship, bringing her food from afar. She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plan the day's work for her servant girls. I wish to have servant girls one day. Shoot, somebody help me with all this stuff I got to do. Look. She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plan the day's work for her servant girls. She goes to inspect a field and buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She is energetic and strong, a hard worker. She makes sure her dealings are profitable. Her lamp burns late into the night. Her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting fiber. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. She has no fear of winter for her household, for everyone has warm clothes. She makes her own bedspreads. She dresses in fine linen and purple gowns. Her husband is well known at the city gates, where he sits with the other civic leaders. She makes belted linen garments and sashes to sell to the merchants. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instructions with kindness. She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness. Her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty does not last, but a woman who fears Yahuwah will be greatly praised. Reward her for all she has done. Let her deeds publicly declare her praise. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. That was the last four chapters of Proverbs 28, 29, 30, and 31. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and hop on over here to Jesus Never Existed. Let's see if we can get through the rest of this today. We at about 40 minutes left. All right, so remember the second half, or it calls it part two, it's an interview with Kenneth Humphreys. So these are questions and answers, right? Okay. We should probably be finished with this. I say the max 3 days, maybe really two, if I don't start talking about other stuff. Okay. Chip Smith of Nine Bandit Books. So anytime Chip asks a question, if you got the book, you will see they just kind of shorten his name and give him this acronym 9BB. That's his acronym. And Kenneth Humphreys, they shorten his to his initials KH. Okay. Chip, I suppose I have been an atheist more or less since I discovered the truth about Santa Claus. But like most people, believers and non believers alike, I simply assumed that Jesus was at least a real and important historical figure, even if he wasn't the miracle working Son of God that we learn about in Sunday school. How did you come to question something that is so widely believed? Were you already an atheist when you began to critically examine the evidence for a Jesus of history? Or did your investigation lead to a crisis of belief? Were you ever surprised by your own research and conclusions? Kenneth answers, like yourself, I've been an atheist from a very young age, but the idea that Jesus, though not the Son of God, was a real historical person is, is a perfectly reasonable supposition. For most of my life, I certainly thought that such an individual existed. It was only after I started to write a different book, one on the Dark Ages, that I began to look for the hardcore or bedrock facts of his existence. I thought that it would be a straightforward task to assemble, a non-hagiographic biography of Jesus, skimpy as it might be. The quite stunning surprise was that there really is no solid evidence. That certainly does not prove he never existed, but it made me wonder at the paradox that on one hand, we have the story of a charismatic holy man who supposedly changed the lives of thousands of his contemporaries, and yet on the other hand, not a single one of those thousands, not follower nor opposition, wrote a single word about the man. What I found to be the case in years since that first realization is that the absence of evidence for a human Jesus extends even into the testimonies of the first Christians, that his supposed life, gleaned from the Gospels, is a pastiche of literary prototypes modeled for the most part on material from the Old Testament, that the venues of his mighty deeds are all highly dubious, that all archaeological or non biblical evidence is lacking. At what point do we stop saying, well, he may have still existed, and start saying, Jesus the man probably never existed? I've long stopped I've long since stopped saying probably for two reasons. First, if Jesus was such an inconsequential individual, why on earth would anyone, many decades later, writing a story of miracles and marvel, need this real person? He adds nothing to the story. Second, what do we have evidence for? In abundance and across many centuries is the do. Hold on, let me go back. Second, What we do have evidence for. Okay. Second, what we do have evidence for in abundance and across many centuries is the duplicity and fraud of Christians and of the church they compose. The best one might say of them is that they were fantastics. Hold on. Fantasist. Fanaticists. Hold on. Fantastic. Hold on. Well, I'm sitting here trying to sound this out. This gonna put my nerves. Hold on, let's bring this up. F-A. I know I probably said it right. Fantastists. I'm gonna start doing this, y'all. Listen. How you say it? Fantasist. Okay. I was tripping. He adds nothing to the story. Second, what we do have evidence for in abundance across many centuries is the duplicity and fraud of Christians and of the church they compose. The best one might say of them that they were fantasists, enamored of their own imaginings. The more sober judgment would be that they were barefaced liars and charlatans building for themselves a worldly empire. With such a pedigree, only the supremely naive would conclude that the original gospel storytellers were writing history. They were religious innovators, and Jesus was the protagonist of their historicized theology. 9BB. It seems obligatory that I should ask about your formal education and training, but I'd like to frame the question to invite your perspective on the significance of academic credentials generally, and more specifically, where matters of profound controversy are at issue. Since you have devoted a great deal of time and energy to promoting a thesis that runs against prevailing scholarly consensus, and a thesis, if might be noted, that continues to attract a fair number of eccentrics. Do you face a special challenge in overcoming preconceptions about the role of the independent researcher in scholarly discourse? That's a long question, right? That he just asked. He pretty much saying, do you run into issues with people saying, you ain't got no degree? What authority do you have to even teach us about these things, right? Like some people tend to do, because they think people need the the government school system to adequately be educated, when I find that those that are most educated are the independent studiers, right? They have so much more of a rich education because it's self-led, and they're interested in it, and they start digging into things and expanding in ways that the formal school system really doesn't have the time to. And if they do, you're gonna pay a pretty penny for it, right? A whole lot cheaper to be an independent. Not saying that you don't need some of that from, because it may be needful, right? Okay, we won't get sidetracked. He's answering his question. Academic credentials are very important, almost as important as having an inquiring and logical mind and the courage to challenge received wisdom. I spent 7 years in tertiary Tertiary. Okay. I spent 7 years in tertiary education. In fact, every summer from the ages of 16 to 28, I was studying for someone's examination or other. But after my master's degree, I decided to give academia a break and earn a living. I went into the then infant computer software industry. In my student days, getting a university education was a privilege, and for a kid from the working class, you had to be smart. Now it seems everyone can attend a place that hands out so called degrees. I think standards have dropped and original thinkers are thin on the ground. Yet it has always been mavericks who have advanced knowledge rather than the time servers of consensus. Thinking differently isn't an eccentricity, it's vital. Yes, the web gives a forum to a lot of loons, but the web also gives them short shrift. At the end of the day, scholarly expertise has to be respected, but it's the merits and force of the arguments that matter, whoever makes them. 9BB asks another question. How do you address those who are predisposed to dismiss your work as another web savvy conspiracy theorist or crank? And Ken answers him, actually, rarely have I been dismissed as a conspiracy theorist, perhaps because I do not advocate a conspiracy theory. If I have a theory at all, it is summed up in the word syncretism. But I regard that judgment not as a theory, but as a description of reality. A while back, R. Joseph Hoffman used his blog to sneer that I am not as famous as he is and cheerfully admitted he had been too busy to read my work. But I don't write for the scholarly elite or for those who allow the scholarly elite to do their thinking for them. To consider and ultimately embrace the idea that Jesus never existed, a reader must first of all be a person who questions authority and does their own thinking. He asked the next question. I do understand that you're not espousing conspiracy theories, but I wasn't being I'm sorry, but I wasn't being provocative in dropping the term. One doesn't have to wade far into mythicist literature to find some version of the core idea being promoted or appropriated by a steady queue of maverick thinkers who advance specific and often colorful theories about the origin of a Jesus myth. I could mention John Allegro's theory that the myth arose out of a sacred mushroom cult or various iterations of an astro-theological interpretation, such as we find in the New Age writings of Acaria, or more recently in the conspiratorial scheme of Peter Joseph's Zeitgeist movement. There are also reductive notions that Jesus is Caesar, that Jesus is Buddha, etc. Allowing such ideas may differ in their merits. What is your take on the congeries of French studies that have come to be entangled with mythicist scholarship? Do you think that there might be something inherently unsatisfying about a broad, syncretistic account that leads people to settle on more concrete or conspiratorial explanations? Why do they ask such long questions? Like, you had to have written these questions down so I can answer every part of your question. It took me like 10 minutes to read that one question. Slow show. Shalom. All praises to the Most High. Hallelujah. Okay, Ken answers. Yes, a good question. A limitation of syncretism, if we want to see it this way, is that, let me start over. Yes, a good question. A limitation of syncretism, if we want to see it this way, is that rarely does it name names. The gospel story was a collective endeavor in which many scribes and editors played a part. But importantly, they all chose to remain anonymous, passing off their work under another's name. Matthew, Luke, and John were not even prepared to cite Mark as their most important source. So, this deliberate obfuscation of authorship, which I think speaks volumes about the story's truthfulness, opens the door to any number of pet theories. An imperial conspiracy has been popular for quite a while and resonates in an area which government is believed to be up to any number of dirty tricks. But I don't really think the Roman state would have invested the resources into inventing the whole 9 yards of Christianity. Rather, it acquired the product when the religion had already established its usefulness. How far can we go with hallucinogenic mushrooms? Allegro gets a bad rap, but the suggestion is not unreasonable. A link between religious experiences and drug use is well attested. The problem is leveraging and contributing. The problem is leveraging a contributing element into the entire solution. Was Jesus a revamp of Caesar or Odysseus? Hold on, that is not how you say that name. Odysseus. How you say that name? I know how to say it. Odysseus. Hold on. Okay. Was Jesus a revamp of Caesar or Odysseus, a writer of Judas of Gamala or James the Just? It is well within reason to argue that the real authors of the gospel tale were influenced by and derived their ideas from the wider culture in which they lived. How far we credit one source rather than another is a question of judgment. These would be all encompassing concrete solutions at a minimum to have to discount or marginalize everything else. So they are inherently flawed by a willful blindness. We need to see the whole picture, balancing all the elements, and not be partial to a wondrous pet theory overextended beyond its valid explanatory power, hence syncretism. He asks his next question. At this point, I should probably step back and ask, what is syncretism and why is it so important in the context of mythicist studies? We may return to the subject, but it seems useful to provide a sketch for those who are not familiar with the concept. Ken answers, simply put, syncretism is the merging or melding together of various customs, traditions, and beliefs. Something like we can see syncretism happening with the one world religion. They're melding everything together, right? At least they're trying to. Everything, everybody worships here. Don't matter who you worship, where you worship. We make a temple, a house of prayer for all, right? Simply put, syncretism is the merging or melding together of various customs, traditions, and beliefs. Previously discrete, often rival ideas, practices, and mythologies are merged or conflated either by analogy or copying, creating a bigger, more comprehensive entity or system. This was very common in the ancient world, where very typically Roman gods were concocted. Hold on, concatenated. What?
Concatenate.
Concatenate. Okay, I ain't never had to use concatenate a day in my life. This was very common in the ancient world, where very typically Roman gods were concatenated with local. Okay, it means together in a chain or a series. They put them together. He should just say he put them together. He wanna see if everybody paying attention. This was very common in the ancient world. Where very typically Roman gods were concatenated with local gods serving the same purposes. The new entity had the characteristics and names of both. The process began with the conquest of Alexander, who planted Hellenic culture everywhere, but also, for example, dressed as a Persian and ordered his troops to take Persian wives in order to create a hybrid race. The process went further with the Roman imperial system, which absorbed the universalized all that was useful. I'm sorry. The process went further with the Roman imperial system, which absorbed and universalized all that was useful. Local loyalties were swept aside, creating, among other things, a teeming marketplace for cults and superstitions. In this world, nascent Christianity had to compete and did, in fact, triumph in the bid to be the one true universal religion. Thus, in the Jesus story, Jesus walks on water and calms the storm, as did Poseidon in Greek mythology. Jesus turns water into wine in the matter of Dionysus, heals like Asclepius, shows the clemency of Caesar, and wisdom surpasses Solomon, through sacrifice saves humanity like Mithras, and so on. Jesus is second to no one in anything, whether in power or humility, in suffering or in glory. He may be Jewish, but he is also thoroughly syncretic. The next question. Dispensing with reductive pet theories, then, is it possible to offer a qualified account of how a fictive Jesus emerged through syncretistic processes? Can you provide a summary, your own judgment, of the basic chronology and the comparative importance of specific outside influences along the way? Does it matter to you that the author is an atheist? Not really. Not at this point, it doesn't, because before I even came across this, I realized that Jesus was a fictional character, right? And atheists, mind you, atheists, here's what a true atheist is. Atheists don't believe in all this religion, but they do believe that there is a higher power. They don't believe that they're just poof here by no higher power. True atheists actually believe there is a higher power. They just don't believe in all this other goobly gawk or whatever you want to call it. That's the definition of a true atheist. And I've talked to quite a few of them. They absolutely, at least the ones I've personally come in contact with, especially during my active duty days. I've met with people and people from different cultures all over the world. Like I said, this has been like an ongoing thing. Unbeknownst to me, I'd be doing what I'm doing now. It's just I've always been curious about how different people worship and what they believe. So when I would travel, we would go to different places. I would ask the people. I would first of all find out where the nearest church was, or the temple, mosque, synagogue, wherever people worship, so I could talk to the locals and those there, because it always, I was always curious about it. So it doesn't trip me up like it would have before, when I was thinking that they just didn't believe in anything. They do believe in a higher power. They do believe in Yah. They may not call him Yah, but they are like atheists. They seem not to hold favor anything or anyone believe. Yeah, they do believe that there is a higher power. They're more kind of like, I like to look at this like scientists. A lot of people think that scientists are atheists, and in a way they are, but they are proving what's true and what's myth, which we all really should be doing. And Christianity has a bad habit of, let me not say bad habit, because it's not a bad habit to have faith and belief in something, especially if it's directed in the right direction towards Yah, right? But sometimes they tend to be ignorantly and blindly following things that can't be proven. Not saying that you should be able and you should know how to prove everything, then you really wouldn't need it. It's almost like that catch 22 kind of, but don't, some of them are superstitious, like overly superstitious. And it's just like, you know what, you're an idiot. Like, because even my child, like even children are they like to touch and research and feel out things, and my children like to take things apart to see how it works. It helps to develop. And he really desires us to be the same way, right? He literally put us in a place where we can test, and all these things, test and see and find out who he really is, right? And those who actually begin to learn about the body, as they begin to learn about the body, sometimes it may lead them to learning about nature. Or those who learn about nature, it may, or it lead you back to the body, because they're here simultaneously And if you look at both of them and you really begin to do your study on it, you will see how it complements one another, and you will see how it definitely has to be a creation of something bigger. Yes, Marie. But why? But why? But why? Right? And I think Christians don't ask that question, but why, like they should. They really should be like, but why? Okay, you said that, but why? How? Really? And then if you get somebody that just get pissed with all the but why, is like, because I said so. I don't know. Get out of here. You ask so many questions. And kind of that's what pastors do to this. She get out of here, you ask too many, don't you dare ask me, don't you question the authority of God. They should have added that T on the end. God. I'm like, bye. I'm out of here. God's servant. Goodbye. Kick the dust off my feet. I'm gonna leave people alone. Yeah. So it doesn't really. I like to talk to people from different religions and stuff. Like I say, it's led me on the path where I am now. It keeps. It's like once you start pulling on that loose sweater string, it begins to unravel more and more of that sweater, and you really begin to see what's underneath. Right? We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. Some things I ain't even share with y'all yet. I want to, but I feel like we need to go through a process so you don't get me all chopped and screwed. Some people got me completely chopped and screwed, right? I'm like, stay a little bit longer, right? Because some things people, especially if you just walking out the church doors, right? Dripping in the anointing of Jesus Christ. You ain't gonna understand the thing I'm saying, right? Sober up a little bit. Sober up a little bit and let's talk, right? Come, let's reason together. Let's ask some questions, right? Y'all ain't gonna kill us for asking questions. I'm that child, but why? But why? And no, I haven't read A Case for Christ and Peace. Shalom, shalom. I haven't. I've seen it. I haven't read it yet. I'm not sure if I'm gonna read it. When I go to Amazon to get something, it keeps popping up in my recommended. I haven't gotten it yet, but I've heard about it a lot. I don't know. I may check into it. Is it good? Have you read it? I may check it out. I'll put it on my list to get to. Okay. Listen. Okay, so I'll repeat his question because we probably forgot by now. At this point, I should probably step back and no, wait. Oh, he asked the question about syncretism. Okay. Simply put, syncretism is the merging or melding together of various customs, traditions, and beliefs. Previously discrete, often rival ideas, practices, and mythologies are merged or conflated, either by analogy or copying, creating a bigger, more comprehensive entity or system. This was very common in the ancient world, where very typically Roman gods were, say that word, I forgot how to say it again. Concatenate. Yeah. Roman gods were concatenated with local gods serving the same purposes. That's gonna be concatenate gonna be in our title today, y'all. Concatenate. The new entity, hold on. Roman gods were concatenated with local gods serving the same purposes. The new entity had the characteristics and names of both. The process began with the conquest of Alexander, who planted Hellenic culture everywhere, but also, for example, dressed as Persians and ordered his troops to take Persian wives in order to create a hybrid race. I didn't finish this whole thing. Hold on. Let me skip to this next question. I went back too far. Okay. The next question. Dispensing with reductive pet theories, then is it possible to offer a qualified account of how a fictive Jesus emerged through syncretistic processes? Can you provide a summary, your own judgment of the basic chronology and the comparative importance of specific influences along the way? Ken answers a first-rate question. If we could map a comprehensive understanding of, say, 400 years of syncretism, the end product of which was Jesus Christ, the universal Savior, maybe the advocates of my way or the highway will subsume their favorite candidates for Jesus into that general understanding. There were many strains that coalesced into the final product, both within and outside of Judaism. So here's my tentative trajectory of the key developments. 4th, 1st centuries BC. Within Judaism, in the aftermath of the conquest of the Levant by Alexander, there is intensified conflict between pro and anti Hellenizers. Anti Hellenists incubate a nostalgic regard for an imaginary Davidic kingdom, a perceived time of fidelity to Yahweh and of national greatness. At an early age, Israel is personified in sacred literature as the chosen, the anointed, the elect, and a notion of this vicarious atonement, which means a scapegoat sacrifice, begins to merge with the notion of a sinless man atoning for the sins of his people. Profane historical events, invasions, exiles, etc., are reflected in scripture. In this arcane literature, time itself becomes nebulous. Past, present, and future are fused into what can only be understood as sacred time. Both revealed and foretold are battles on a cosmic level in which the forces of light triumph over the powers of darkness. Notions such as the day of the Lord, the Son of Man, the elect one, the anointed, and the just one gain currency. All of this is resonant in the pronouncements attributed to the so called prophets, in the Son of David motif, and in, for example, the Wisdom of Solomon, in which divine wisdom itself becomes personified. The success of the Maccabees in expelling the Syrian Greek conquerors raised hopes of national salvation, hopes which are dashed by Roman conquest. In literature hostile to Hellenization, there is intensified apocalyptic and messianic fervor, anticipating the Lord Yahweh intervening directly into human affairs. His righteous ones will be vindicated and the wicked punished. Here we may refer to the similitudes of Enoch, the Essenes, with their prototype teacher of righteousness. The Dead Sea Scrolls, for example, the Manual of Discipline, and the Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs. With polytheism, local deities are increasingly under threat from more universal gods and imperial enthusiasms, Serapis, Isis, Magna Mater. The competitive marketplace of cults accelerates syncretic tendencies. Syncretic. Yeah, I ain't gonna look that one up. Syncreticity. Let me keep going. There, there is conflation of Mithra with Helios and Apollo into a ubiquitous sun god. Greek kings identify themselves with the sun god and style themselves savior. Meanwhile, there is the development of a humanitarian ethical system, stoicism, above and beyond traditional cults. Okay, and the next section is 1st century BC, 1st century AD. We just read 4th, 1st centuries BC. Now we're about to read 1st century BC, first through hold on. I'm sorry. I screwed that up. I understood it wrong. What we just read was the 4th through the 1st centuries BC. What we're about to read now is 1st century BC to 1st century AD. Gnostic Hellenized Jews of the diaspora, notably Alexandria, introduced a vaguely defined Christos or Christ into the pantheon. He is an emanation of Yahweh, but lacks physicality or a personal history. He is variously the unseen hand of Yahweh, his creative agent, and his wisdom that descends or ascends through the heavenly spheres. Prayers are offered to this pre-existent God that descends to earth, him in Philippians. Worship is directed toward the sun, the Rapitus of Alexandria. The third day motif appears, the Gabriel revelation. All of that is separated by semicolons, right? So I'm gonna keep reading. We see an increasingly allegorical reading of older Jewish scriptures with new emphasis on the Son and the Word. Epistle of Barnabas, Philo of Alexandria, Jewish Platonism, with greater integration of Jewish tetrarchies into the Roman imperial system, Judea 6 AD and Galilee 44 AD, Stoicism influences Pharisaism, but popular resistance takes the form of intensified apocalyptic and messianic fervor, as well as direct physical confrontation with Rome. The Nazarene sect, known as the Fourth Philosophy to Josephus, advocates a messianic war against Rome. A Messiah, a prophet, and a judge are anticipated. And then it has the Dead Sea Scrolls Damascus document, where that's also found. Within polytheism, there is a growing popularity of historical romances and sacred pageants. The notion of a savior of the world is promoted by Rome. And then in parentheses, it has the Augustan imperial cults, writings of Virgil, and satires of Seneca. Great mother goddess cults of Artemis, Isis, Sybil, and Demeter are conflated into a universal virgin mother cult with the child at her breast. The next section is post First Jewish War, and that's 70 through 117 AD. Disaster for the Jews, the temple is destroyed. Had scripture failed, a priestly survival strategy is formulated. The disaster is interpreted as a positive sign, a sure indication of the end of days. The mystery of God, long hidden in scripture, is now revealed. Before the ages, the Christ had sacrificed himself in a spiritual realm so that the present generation would witness the kingdom of God. Scripture was now being fulfilled.
Dad, guess what? This is my new one.
This is. Oh, that's good.
Polemical. Oh, I think they say polemical.
Dad, guess what?
Hey, babe.
My game
Polemical
is-
religious tracts become the basis for purported letters. What you over there dancing for? Polemical religious tracts become the basis for purported letters. A didactic argument. Christ becomes flesh, but resurrects in a spiritual body, and it has Corinthians in reference. Rival letters are ascribed to a super apostle, Paul. The Christ had appeared on earth, but as a phantom. Docetism. Docetism. Let's see if it'll give me the pronunciation for that. I think it's Docetism. Ocetism.
Docetism.
Docetism. Okay. Docetism. Okay. The Christ had appeared on earth, but as a phantom. Docetism. The earliest Jesus narrative story, the Passion, is assembled. It is an allegory performed as theater. It is an allegory performed as theater. In this sacred play, Jesus is a Nazarene, is a righteous man adopted as a son by God. Jesus on earth acts as a sephir for the Christ, a divinity that had been sacrificed in the heavenly realms in sacred time. Yes.
I can use some Jeremiah's candy.
You can go ask Jeremiah if you can get some of his candy.
Okay.
Jesus on earth acts as a sephir for the Christ, a divinity that had been sacrificed in the heavenly realms in a sacred time. But Jesus is also a son of man and every man, standing in as a sefer for Israel. Rejected and betrayed by a corrupt priesthood, Jesus resurrects and will the true Israel. And in parentheses, it has proto or mark. Then it has semicolon, Odes of Solomon. Okay, so the next section, we probably should pause right here because we're literally at an hour. We're going to pause right here. We might finish this tomorrow. If we don't finish it tomorrow, we'll finish it the next day, right? So we'll pick this up tomorrow with the post-Ketos war as he's going through. Let me see how many more. Yeah, he's going through time for like 2 more pages, then the next question. Okay, yeah, we'll pause right here. We'll finish that. Yes, babe.
I said yes.
Okay, well, go ahead. Okay, so when we pick this up tomorrow, I'll repeat the question. I'm not going to read all the we just finished reading, but I'll repeat the question so we can remember why he's giving us these time spans. So he pretty much asked him, okay, over the course of time, how have you seen this syncretism happen? How have you seen it merge together from the different religions, and how has it looked as we progress into time? So that's what he's explaining through the different time periods. He's summing it up pretty good for us. So I hope y'all been able to stick with us. Y'all, I'm excited about this next book. Look, I'm excited about the next book and the 2 books that's gonna come after that. I ain't gonna tell y'all what those are yet. I don't think you're gonna be able to handle them until we get through this first one. I mean, you will. I'm just saying. But here's what I'm doing. Why y'all so loud?
Oh, because you loud. We got louder because you got louder. Ain't that how it go?
Normally, that is how it goes.
The louder you get, the louder we are. We gotta hear ourselves over you.
Babe, where you about to go? You going to get the what you call it?
I'm about to go. No, I got it. I'm gonna go get it later. I'm get them to go past and pick it up.
Okay.
Truck.
Mom?
But gotta wait a minute.
Okay.
Mommy,
Yes,
let
me go make these donuts and then let's go.
Okay. All right.
But always.
Yes, you do, babe. Right. Always. Good stretch going on. Get down to it. Get a couple and get down. Okay, y'all. So what I'm doing when we read this next book, like I said, I'm a Robert Betwabu. I'm gonna keep reiterating that the next book that we're about to read, The Walk of Spirit, Walk of Power, is written by a Christian guy, right? I want y'all to see this from different angles because as I did this, and I didn't originally start out doing this when I was just studying by myself, but I chose to look at it from different angles and different cultures just to kind of help myself, just to make sure I kept a level head and wasn't like over spiritualizing certain things. That's when I began to realize certain things is a constant and it's not necessarily separated to being something that's just Christian or something that's just Muslim, but it's literally a principle. I call it like a universal principle that works all the way across the world. So when we read this first book by the Christian guy who explains this and the power of praying in tongues or whatever you want to call it, like I said, they call it different things in different places. The church just calls it praying in tongues, right? I want to show you there's a book written by a engineer / scientist guy who happened upon this principle. Now, y'all heard me mention this book a few months ago. It's called My Big Toe, right? I friggin' love that book, right? He comes from the perspective not being raised in religion at all. And he happened upon this, y'all, I'm not sure. People be coming in randomly posting like little things that look like website links. Don't click on them, y'all. I deleted a couple that posted yesterday. Gene Beasley, I don't know who you are. I don't know what that is. Don't be posting like no crazy links. I'm a time you out. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and I don't know what this is. Don't click on it. I clicked on one and nothing really popped up, but I don't know if it's like I'm gonna put you in timeout and I'm gonna remove this. I'm not sure if it's like a virus or something that you may, if you click on it, it'll hold on. Okay. if it might get a virus or something. But when y'all see people post links, if y'all don't hear me ask somebody like Shayla or somebody to post a link over here for y'all, if random links pop up, don't click on them. I don't think y'all will, but I don't know what they are. Some people be posting porn links and stuff. Don't click on them, y'all, right? So Shayla, anybody that got the wrench, if y'all see somebody post a link that I didn't ask them to post, unless it's somebody here that we know that's asking if we seen a reference and say, here's the reference for this, then you can let those stay. But random people that we don't see on a day-to-day basis, they come in here posting something, I'm giving you to go ahead, whoever got the wrench, go ahead and delete it or put them in timeout, right? We ain't gonna start that foolishness. We'll control what we can control. This is our classroom. Okay, so the scientist guy called My Big Toe. So if you want to look ahead into it, we are definitely going to read My Big Toe. My Big Toe is about 300 pages too, but it's so good. And it gives you the same. And he doesn't call it praying in tongues, but he breaks down what begins to happen. And he actually has a 3-book trilogy that goes into the science of it and how the body operates. When I say y'all, it blew my mind. That's why I was like, you know what? The time has come to talk about this now. We actually literally have scientific evidence and proof and testing that they've done with people while they do this, while they're hooking up the nose to the body, checking brain waves and activity and what's happening on the inside and what begins to happen and manifest in their life all the way around. I'm like, yo, this is amazing. All right, babe.
Call me.
I will call you as soon as I'm done. All right, babe. So that's going to be a part of it. So those of you that, and I think he did really good. He did really good with giving you the information without just rattling off a bunch of facts and statistics and stuff, right? But he does tell you that there was a lot of that, and he tried to word it in a way that kept your attention. But there are certain points he said, now this, he said, you may zone out on me. He said, but I need to give you this information so you can see where we're going and how this plays into all of this. We definitely have to read My Big Toe. Yo, I'm telling you, it's so good. And I got the book and I have the Kindle version and I have the Audible. Like, is that overkill, Pam? No, it's actually not, because when I was reading through it, like when I'm out, I listened to that book like 3 times, and it gets better each time. So if I'm out, like I'm driving, I will put it on so I could listen to it. When my headphones died and I didn't have my hardback copy, I had it on my Kindle. That's how good it was. So I think it'll be really helpful for us so we can walk in things. It takes away that scariness and that things when we've been first introduced to it a lot of times, that we think, okay, this is a spooky Christian thing, and you just caught the Holy Ghost. I don't know that I want that. They make you act crazy. I'm like, no, it don't. That's just people and their personality and acting a goddamn fool, right? Some people, I don't know, they may feel power, but he's going to explain to you. Yes, it has you talking about My Big Toe. It doesn't have a PDF version, Joy Shalom. It does have a Kindle version though, so you can download the Kindle for a few. I don't remember how much it costs on Kindle, but the book was like $30 if I remember. It may be a little bit cheaper now. I bought it. I've had My Big Toe probably for about a year now. But it's on Audible. You can get it paperback or hardback, and you can get it. You can download it digitally. Excuse me, on the Kindle. But as of right now, they don't have a PDF version, but with the Kindle, they will give you, like some of the charts, they'll give you access to PDF charts and stuff that they're going to show in there that shows like some of the brain waves and what happens to the body physically when you focus, right? Whether you're using a mantra, they call it a mantra, it doesn't matter what language you're using, it gives you the same result. That's why I was like, once I read My Big Toe, it gave me the strength and courage. $7.99 on Kindle. Okay, if y'all can afford it on Kindle, go ahead and get it, because we're going to get it. If you need the hardback, get the hardback. Whatever you can afford, get it. If not, we're going to be here reading it, right? I'm not saying you have to, but if you want to, it's there for whichever one you want it, or if you want to get in all of them like I did. I'm not saying you should, whatever. That's just me. I research a lot. So I spend a lot of money on research materials and books and stuff, so I ain't telling y'all to do what I do. If I can find it free in any way, I'll let y'all know, right? Okay. So, but we're definitely going to read that one. And then we're going to read one. I'm going to just let you know now. It's one from ancient Egypt. And in this one, just like I need to preface you, right? Because it's going to talk about some ancient Egyptian things. It's going to have some scriptures from the ancient Egyptian papyrus, the papyrus of Anu, the different things. But once when I first started getting some of the books from ancient Egypt, I was really kind of afraid, right? I really was kind of afraid because I was still like, okay, Father, I don't want to, growing up in the church, don't you read that? You're going to read a curse into your spirit. So some of these things that I picked up from the church, it still holds on to me tight, right? I'm going through my process of breaking these strongholds and fear and everything so I can just look and see if there's really a boogeyman there, right? Y'all know how I talk about the boogeyman a lot. Look, okay, I'm going to go first. Y'all just watch. If I ain't back in 5 minutes, somebody come looking for me, right? So that person is like my sister, right? And my mom sometimes, but I'm more deeper with my sister. Okay, Alicia, this is what I'm about to go do now. This is what I got here. I'm just going to check it out, right? Look, if I start acting crazy, at least you know full detail of what I was doing. But thankfully, I haven't gotten demon possessed by going to check into stuff, right? Because I be going in like, okay, I'm gonna skip through that. I'm just like, seriously, that when I'm afraid to look at resources like that, because some of it has been occultic or what they term occultic material, right? But when I got into it, it wasn't really occultic at all. And I'm like, why is this even labeled occultic? So when I'm first going through something, it'll take me a little while to get through because I'm using all my protections and making sure I ain't got like a book of Satan or something, right? Because I'm really particular about stuff, and I don't want to do something that's going to stunt my growth or cause me to be demon possessed, like the church would call it. But I found I don't know, maybe it's a part of my gift or whatever of a researching Yahuwah just kind of protects me in ways, and I'm able to go in and get out what I need and get back out unscathed, at least up until this point. Blessed be the most holy, may it always be that way. Father, keep me safe, right? So things out before I present them to you, I'll at least go through them. If I don't completely read it all the way through, like Caesar's Messiah, I got the Audible and I listened to it all the way through. I was like, okay, yeah, this is a good one. We can, and it hits on some stuff, gives great resources. We're going to read this out loud. So I said all of that because the one after that, right, we're going to read. And I was debating whether if I wanted to read that one directly after. Bella! I don't know if that's the TV over. That was her crying. I was debating, what, that might be her. I think Jeremiah might have told her she can't handle his candy. If that's her, she'll be down here crying in a minute. That's her. She coming crying. She gonna tell me what's wrong. Okay. So I was debating whether I wanted to read that one before my big toe, right? Yes, babe.
No, not let me watch anything on TV.
Oh, you cried? What, in y'all room? Go in my room. You got the whole TV and stuff to yourself. What are they watching in their room?
They're watching something.
Go tell Josh I said. She like to go in our bedroom and kick everybody out and cry when they want to come in there turning on our TV. And then she want to go in the room and watch something on their little small TV. They won't let it in. Now she want to throw a fit. Well, you got the whole huge TV in our room on the wall. You got free access to everything that's in there. Why are you crying? She just mad because they kicked out and won't let her in. Can you make a list of the books you have read so far for the teachings for this year? Also, would you be outlining a list for the following year of what is expected to be read? Joy, I will give you the list of books that we've read so far. As for the books ahead, sometime I don't know, so I get close, right? But yes. Why is she crying? What are y'all watching, first of all?
She's mad because we wouldn't let her change from the video.
What video? What are you watching?
Nothing that has cussing in it.
But what are you watching?
I didn't even read the title.
What is it about? That was a question, son.
Doesn't she have your TV?
You did not answer my question. What are you watching? And I don't care that you didn't read the title. What is it about?
I still didn't get through the video.
You still didn't get through
So
the
how
video.
am I supposed to know?
Y'all in y'all room? How are you watching it?
I hooked up to the docking station.
You hooked it up to the
Pro
docking
TV.
station. And so why are you kicking her out? Oh, she crying because you won't let her change it. Where's yours?
Doesn't she still have your TV?
That's what I said. Go to, what do you want to watch?
I just want to watch Titus.
Go cut on Titus in my room.
Turn it on herself.
Joshua, what I asked you to do was cut on Titus in my bedroom. All day long. Okay, so I don't necessarily know what I'm gonna read ahead until sometime we get close. Sometime I know. Like if I know ahead of time, like now, like I definitely know them two are coming after this because it gives different it gives you different perceptions from people in different cultures, right? But they're explaining the same principle, which is why I be sharing with y'all like a lot of things that we call in Christianity, people in other religions are doing it too, but they call it by another term. And Christianity pits you against all the other religions and tell you that everything they doing is bad and everything is of the devil or new age movement and all this stuff. I'm like, well, okay. I used to believe that for a very long time until I start, but why? But why? You know, because with my interaction with different people of other faiths, right? How they would seem to be truly upstanding. You want to call them righteous? They were not only were they down to earth, but they had certain morality and virtues about them, things lines that they just wouldn't cross, right? To whereas I'm thinking coming out of church, everybody's a vagabond in the land when they really weren't, right? I work with people that had morals. They're not gonna lie. They're gonna stand up to do for what's right, and they weren't Christians, right? They were atheists. They were Muslims. They were Wiccans. They had all these different things that they labeled themselves as religions, and I'm like, it made me curious. I'm like, okay, well, you can just be a good person growing up, but surely you can't be as good of a person if you're not a Christian. Like all of these things going through my head, interacting with people all over the world from different backgrounds. And not just different people who come to the big melting pot of the United States, but actually going to other countries and going to their places of worship. And like I said, if I had not seen the type of church or synagogue that I was in, or heard certain or seen like certain garb that they wore clothing, I would think I was sitting amongst friends simply with general conversation. And it baffled me. I'm like, okay, I need to figure out what's going on here. Like, it's more good people in the world other than Christians, and like all of these things, right? So something that really blew my mind as I looked into it, you're not really taught this way in Christianity, right? Now we did read fossilized customs, and it does give you what people like today. Like today, if you see people in different ones, a lot of times like the lower level people or the I call it hoi poi, but it's not pronounced hoi poi. It's pronounced hoi polloi, meaning like the lower class or just the common people. They would consider us as being common people. People who are up higher levels, maybe like the not like the lay people. It was like they really understood at higher levels what was really going on, and then the lower level information gets all misconstrued amongst the people, and everybody's fighting amongst each other, and that's in like all the religions. And I'm like, okay. But what really blew my mind, and I mentioned it before, when I began to look into stuff into ancient Egypt. Now, we've seen from what we're taught, even as we transition from Christianity to Hebrew roots, is always we don't want to go back to Egypt. Egypt is the place of bondage. When I looked at it before Egypt actually became a place of bondage, it was a world power, right? And as a safe haven, Yahuwah would always send his people there. So it made me wonder, okay, so why would you send them there and then remove them from there? Because he began to remove them because there was a time where Egypt, the leadership actually changed and their morals and their standards actually began to decline, right? And they also began to be infiltrated by Rome. And then their teachings, what were righteous teaching, here's what blew my mind, y'all. That's why I'm like, oh, we got to go through this. We got to go back to the ancient days of what they taught from the very beginning, right? Now, we learned about some of their gods, and I even joked about the lamb, right? Call them lamb, right? The lamb god, all those things which they kind of connect to Jesus Christ. Now, sometime now that I learn about it, I really wish I hadn't joked about it, because now I really understand. Now I kind of feel bad because I didn't understand the original teaching, right? So I mean, I feel bad, but I don't kind of. You'll be able to see my growth over the period of time. I'd be just be looking at some of my stuff like, oh, I just say anything on my mouth. Look, so okay, so the most ancient teachings in ancient Egypt, right? What they tell you from the very beginning, and I mentioned this a few days ago, they created characters in ancient Egyptian mythology. They created characters and called them gods and goddesses to teach you about the different attributes of the God or the creator, the supreme being, the great spirit himself, right? So that was the original teaching. And as they taught it, they told you from the very beginning, the story we're about to tell you is a myth. None of these gods and goddesses actually exist. Each god or goddess represents an attribute of the divine creator. We want to teach you about your father, your divine creator, the great spirit. We want to teach you about him. But so we're not rattling off a bunch of data and statistics and things that's going to cause your ears to start protruding or cause your ears to start smoking. We're going to create a story to help you understand the different attributes. And when there's a God, just understand that that's a masculine trait of your creator. When it's a goddess, that's a feminine trait of your creator. Everything male and female comes out of him. When he created us, he took his attributes and he separated them and he divided them up. He divided up all the best portions of him, put it in nature, put it in us, and we are the ones who need to discover it and put the pieces of the puzzle back together, i.e., a man and a woman, a husband and a wife, male and female energy come together to create that one being, that divine male, female, masculine, feminine energy that comes from the Father himself. I'm like, bruh, where was this teaching at all my life, right? And so, but the way they teach you now, oh, they worshiping multiple gods and all, and that's how it's taught to us. When that's not how the ancient Egyptians actually taught this. So think about this. I mentioned this before about Israel going into Egypt, right? Like my understanding of this has expanded so much that it will blow your freaking mind. That's why I was like, I don't know that y'all quite ready for some of this in the books I know that I'm going to read to y'all. I'm just trying to take y'all along the process that I personally went in hopes that you will get it, right? Because some people are still triggered by a lot of stuff. A lot of people here, I ain't gonna say a lot, but some of them still believe in some things that are completely myths. They were designed, they were allegories, they were stories designed to teach you about your creator. But instead of getting that or growing to the understanding that it's time to put the child stories away, the fairy tales away, it's time to put the milk away. Now it's time to have meat. It's time to no longer think like a child. It's time to think like an adult, right? Santa Claus is not real. It's time to put this away and teach you about this as you grow so you can relate directly to the Father. Think about children and how we deal with them. And as you get older, you give them more responsibility. You teach them more things that they're now able to understand, and you don't have to talk to them like, hey baby, okay. You don't have to do that anymore. right? And that's essentially what the stories were until you actually got an understanding of the basis of what was going on, okay? And so as they taught you that, it was easy to remember different attributes of the Father by making them characters. Think about animations and stuff. I'm like, holy crap. Holy crap. I was like, so people, they're getting stuck on the created characters that ancient Egypt originally told you these people don't exist. These gods or these goddesses never existed. They even got the movies, the mythological characters and Zeus and all of this stuff. All of this is based on the teachings that ancient Egypt taught. Ancient Egypt was so they were so advanced in their understanding that all the nations of the world came to learn from them. Yahuwah downloaded that into them. And ancient Egypt was a righteous people. Their priest, they didn't just have priests, they had priests and they had priestess, men and women. There was no double standard in Egypt. And they let you know that, right? There was no double standard where men could just hold certain positions and a women can't be priests. No. You are both divinely created from the Father, and you're one part of the bigger whole. You need both parts. That's why there was such a balance in Egypt, because you didn't have all this masculine power trying to rule over everybody, putting down the feminine power or the goddesses or whatever. I even read in there that there were nations that were so appalled that ancient Egypt allowed their women the freedom that they had, that they was like, oh no, stay away from that place, right? Because they taught that women are you only made for two things: bedroom and the kitchen and the bedroom, Florida, the bedroom and the kitchen. James, good times, right? That's what the other nations and even Israel. I hate to say it, even Israel, our fault, right? They treat women the same way, right? And they use the priesthood, the masculine energy from the priesthood, to make the women seem like they're lesser than when they never have been, right? And saying this today kind of sounds crazy. They're equal to men, right? That sounds like, how dare you say that? Can women do the things men can do? Shut up. Yahuwah looks at us as equal, right? We're different in different aspects. Men, their piping is on the outside, women is on the inside, if you get what I'm saying. But we are creation wise, we're created equal. We may be different colors, different backgrounds, ethnicities, different heights, different sizes, but he created us all equal with the same type of intellect. And ancient Egypt kept that balance to where the other nations, they didn't like that, right? They came and they got the wisdom. Ancient Egypt taught the world. They were the world power. So if you learn about ancient Egypt and the purity and the righteousness that they lived under, like we have the 10 commandments, right? You can find those 10 commandments within what they call the law of Ma'at, Maat, right? Now, Ma'at is a divine feminine God, but it's the attribute of Yah that shows you that he's righteous and he's just. So when you see Ma'at, you will normally see scales, like the balancing scales and the legal, right? Yahuwah, measure for measure. Like when I learned about this, I started thinking about my videos where I talked about Yahuwah, measure for measure. There is no unjust scales with him. Everything is a balance, right? He don't like you to tip the scales in either way. So, but because I had already understood this from my Christian understanding and my research and stuff that I had done, when I got to that, it didn't spook me out. Oh, law of my eye, that's like another God's laws and stuff. No, it's not. It's the attribute of Yah that says he's righteous and he's just and he holds balanced scales, and he holds you. He wants you to hold those same balance scales in all of your dealings. But they have 42 laws of Ma'at, or 42 laws of justice, or 42 laws of harmony, right? And that's dealing with everything like the 10 commandments are. The 10 commandments just sum it up into 10, but you can find those 10 within that 42. It just goes into deeper detail for the entire community, and it's good for all. And their thing was bring no harm to anyone, man nor beast. While Yahuwah had the Israel was like that wild ass, right? That donkey. We need to yoke you to somebody a little bit older. Think about, and I think it's Proverbs, where it's talking about yoking the younger ox to the older, stronger ox that's going to pull them along, right? You got the younger one, want to do what they want to do. Yoke you to somebody older that's trained. Let's get it. Y'all, you're going to wear yourself out. That older ox is strong and he's trained and he's going to go and he's eventually going to whip you into shape, and you're gonna tire yourself out trying to kick against the pricks. You ain't gonna be able to. Your strength is no match for the ox who has been well trained and steady and moving. And that's what Egypt was, and that's why Yahuwah sent hard-headed Israel into Egypt, right? Egypt was that strong ox that was going to whip them into shape. Egypt was not that nation that was killing animals, sacrificing. They called it an abomination. Freaking amazing, blew my mind. I'm like, ancient Egypt was more in line with you and your ways, y'all, than your own people were. We know Israel's a hard-headed something or other, right? So I'm just like, y'all, we have got to read this so you can see it. So I'd be trying to prep you. I give you some of the insights that I've learned from it so you don't get all super spooky spiritual on me, be like, oh, you done gone off into the occult, delete, unsubscribe. Pay attention. Stay in class, people. Stay in class so you can see the full story, right? So I do like to read ahead so I can give you some of the insights and where it's leading up to, because in that one, I think it does really good, because at the beginning of all of those books, it literally almost repeats the same thing over and over, so you can steady your mind, keep your mind in the right place. Like, you know, all these characters, all these gods and goddesses, they were created to teach you about the attributes of the Creator. These gods and these goddesses never existed, although people worship them like they did, and they're calling themselves gods and goddesses and all this. Now I'm looking at this, I'm like I said in the books of the prophets, the whole human race is foolish. Right here, I wish y'all really knew what y'all doing. I was like, you know what? Bring back the teachings, the righteousness that the people were doing, the ox that you yoke your people to get it together, right? Because remember, even when it was going out to go to the out, well, mind you, the Pharaoh had changed, so things were changing a bit, but not a whole lot. But what was happening was Israel was still sacrificing animals and stuff, and but the ancient Egyptians, they were a plant-based people. They did not slaughter animals, right? That's why when Moses went to talk to Pharaoh, he said, no, we got to go out here to the wilderness, because we're going to be slaughtering animals and y'all count that as an abomination, right? You know, and some people say, oh, because they worship the lamb. No, they didn't worship the lamb. They held all creation as sacred, and they did no harm to anybody, not human nor beast. What does I think it's Proverbs, it talks about even those who are mean to their beasts or to their animals and stuff. The ancient Egyptians did not do that, right? And all of Pharaoh's court, in order to be a part of his court during this time in ancient Egypt, you had to it had to have been proven that you lived a life of righteousness on every area. He didn't want any unjust person around him or on his throne. So, and I'm learning a lot about this by looking at the hieroglyphics. When you see the different gods and goddesses and the peoples with the different symbols over their head, like I told you about the women that had bowls on their head, that represent that they were a purified woman. They were a sacred woman. They did not defile themselves with anything or anybody. They were pure and they were holy, right? So when you learn these symbols, I actually ordered that too. I ordered a translation of all the symbols. I'm so excited about that. That'll be here tomorrow. It's going to help me be able to understand some of these hieroglyphics a whole lot more. But it really enriches my study on ancient Egypt. And by understanding that, it helps me learn more about Israel. And while Yahuwah kept repeating a whole lot of the things he kept repeating to them, Israel was a hard-headed child. We are still hard-headed, right? It's like we want to do what we want to do. We want to do it the way we want to do it. It's only the men. Put the women over there in the bedroom and the kitchen floor, to the bedroom and the kitchen. We'll call you when we need you, right? And y'all like, you know what? The whole human race is foolish, especially my people, right? Okay, we gotta go, y'all. Okay, yeah. Look, Joy said, I like how you selected the text relevant to books or scriptures you read, which gives a further understanding of what the scripture actually teaches. Yes. And that's why I get so excited about this. That's why I'm hoping y'all stay in class and y'all just kind of see it through. Even if you don't believe, or even if you think I'm saying everything I'm saying is a bunch of crap, at least see it all the way through. Hear out the format. It's gonna take us a little while because it's a lot of information. But if you got the time, I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna stay to put out this information. I'm gonna build a story based on what I've encountered, my personal experiences in life with the different cultures and people, and the information that I'm coming across, and the things that I can physically test myself to further prove, what I believe, or if what I believe is nonsense, I need to adjust it, right? So, and I want to bring y'all on, not just watch me, but in hopes that you will get more engaged in your learning as well as you grow in your relationship with the Most Holy. So, I mean, because your experiences may be different from mine, that's why in this next year, or that's what I wanted to say, for the next year, we're really going to be focusing a lot on the praying in tongues and how that actually works. Remember how I told you, if you pray for a while, you got to get yourself going. It's like priming a pump, or get something started, or you're starting the alarm, or if one of them pull ones, you got to prime it a couple times before it'll catch and it'll go by itself. Praying in tongues is the same way, right? It seems to be a supernatural thing, but it's a universal principle that will happen with anything. It ain't even got to be with praying in tongues. I'm gonna tell you how I know. Think about this. It's something that's built on the inside of us, and because we're just kind of like we're hitting and missing, nobody's like really teaching us. We gotta learn ourselves and put it together and teach it the way we understand it. It's like it's trial and error. But it happens like this. You know how even you guys that have children, that children that play songs over and over and over again, and you can't get this Coco Melon song out of your head. It's like if your spirit hears something over and over and over. Yes, it's yoga in most cultures. Uncle JB, I ain't want to yet say the term yoga, but since you brought it up, they do term it in yoga in other cultures, but the yoga that we understand, when we hear yoga, we understand it from the Western mindset, and we really don't understand the definition or the true practice of what yoga is. It's about concentration and focus. And when you hear it say yoga here, people think it's a bunch of exercises. Although that's included to help you focus and concentrate your body, it's not just the exercises. So people really have the wrong understanding of what yoga really is, right? So I didn't want to trigger anybody with that word, and I didn't use it just yet, until you understood what it really was, right? But what happens is your body is programmed in a certain way. Yahuwah has programmed our bodies. Just like when we take our first breath in this world, our bodies are programmed just to do certain things, right? We are really just maintaining our bodies and giving it the things that it needs to continue to grow and thrive on its own. But we're not personally causing any of that to happen. That is an unseen law that Yahuwah has put in place that causes our bodies to grow. Just like it causes bones to form in the womb of the mother while her child is being developed. It's just like that. And although I can't quite explain it, I can tell you how it's happening. I can show you how it's happening in other places. That same thing is happening. So if you hear a song over and over, and you don't have to purposely be listening to it or want to hear it. If you're in a place, like if you're sitting at work and this one song plays over and over and over again on the loudspeaker, on the company speakers, it's going to get down into you, and your spirit will by default take over and begin singing it. That's how you can really be minding your own business and then realize, oh my gosh, this song has been playing in my head. Like you just become conscious of this song that you've been exposed to playing over and over and over in your head. And if I can't get it out of my head, of course you can. There is a law that's going on inside of your body. In order to get that song to stop playing, you have to purposely do something to drown it out. You have to put in another song, or you got to focus your mind on something else to stop that song from playing by itself on the inside of you. If you listen to a song on the radio all the time, when you wake up in the morning, sometimes you will hear that song playing on the inside of you without you consciously starting that song playing on the inside of you. This is the same way that tongues works. It's that same principle. I don't really know how to name it. I can just explain what happens. And by going through these different books, this is going to help you understand a whole lot better what is happening. When you think it's something is just a spiritual thing that Christians do. No, this is a universal principle that happens by default. If you understand what it is, you can program it how you want to program it, and you can cause it to yield you benefits that will enhance your life. Y'all, we gonna get into this. We gonna get into it. Like, I need to stop right here. We're at an hour and 40 minutes. So we got those 3 books. We're gonna read the I should give you the name of the book. Now I didn't told you all that about it. So you can kind of go looking at it, right? So, but you will see in there, and I said that because matter of fact, I'm gonna show them both to you. I'm gonna go grab them real quick and I'm gonna show them to you so you can see. And that way, if you want to kind of go ahead and just kind of start looking ahead and looking at stuff and see, okay, do I want to be here for this or do I not want to be here for this? I'm asking you, stand to class so we can hear it from the different perspectives, from the different scientific evidence and the practices and experiences different people have had with this. And that's why I told you, let's go ahead and start practicing this so you will have your own personal experience. Like, I'm not going to give you anything. Like, if you don't have a tongue, I told you a way that you can do it, right? You can choose a word of power. You can choose a scripture. If you want it to be in another language, okay, choose a short scripture from Proverbs or from Psalms. Go to Google Translate, put that psalm in there and put it in whatever language you want to speak it in. And when you pray in tongues, you can say that you're praying in another tongue, right? Whatever helps you sleep better and whatever helps you, I'm telling you, the principle is going to work regardless, right? Do that. You can get a word of power. It can be a single word. It can be a sound. A sound. Our bodies are water bodies, right? We have liquid flowing through our bodies. That's why sound can change your entire day, your entire outlook, your entire mood. You seen the experiments that they do with water and sound and how the shapes that it makes. When you put music in your ear and you put headphones on, that does the same thing to the blood and water in your body. And it changes the frequency you are on. Y'all, I got a whole book on that too. Yo, we're going to get into it. I want y'all to test this. This is going to become a live interactive class where y'all not just going to hear me talk. You will have the opportunity to go test it. And now once you test it and you have full information, or at least all the information that's available to us, now you can make a conscious decision and you can choose what you believe based on the truth you now know, and by practice and experiment that you now fully understand, right? Or at least understand a little bit better than what you did before, when you just giving stuff, just go do it this way and just believe the Lord that it's going to happen. It can be a little more scientific than that. It really can. And I don't think that Yah is mad with us because we want to know the details of things, right? It's great that you can fly by the seat of your pants, so to speak, and have blind faith. That's okay. But I will hope that your blind faith isn't actually something that's really true and that has been proven to be true. Even if you don't know it by default, let's just hope you were placed into a family, into an atmosphere, into a place that gives you solid truth based on actual facts and testings and stuff, right? Then blind faith it all the way, because you are already set in a place that's perfect that most people are not, right? Go for it. But for us who don't want to be led astray, let's test some things, right? Our creator is the great scientist. I know some people get triggered by that. The science is word. Get over it. He is. you would have to be in order to create this world and create the bodies who are pretty much self-sufficient and literally just drops the spirit in it to kind of facilitate its growth, right? Our bodies, our avatars are literally our test subjects or the vehicle where our spirit can test this world and prove principles that he has put in place, right? It's the glory of Yah to conceal a matter, but it is the glory of kings to discover it, to unravel it, to search it out, to find out what was this precious treasure that my father hid. It's like a good game of hide and seek. Y'all, we're going to get into it. Let me go get these 2 books. I'm going to show them to you real quick, right? Our next 2 books. I'm coming, y'all. I just got one. I got to read the other one. Hold on. Okay, catch my breath. Okay, so the very next book, y'all got that. I ain't went to go pull the heart back out, but y'all got the link for that. It's the Walk of Power, or the Walk of the Spirit, Walk of Power. The 2 books that's coming after that, this is My Big Toe. It's called My Big Toe, The Awakening by Thomas Campbell, right? We're going to read this one. And then, y'all ready? It's an ancient Egyptian book. Some people going to get triggered by the cover. Don't be triggered by the cover, people. I'm telling you. Just stay in class. If you want to plug one of your ears, just so you want to make sure you keep one clip, but I'm telling you, that's what I'm giving it to you now. Go search through it. Look into it. I'm telling you, it's not what it seems to be. It's really good information on the inside. So don't get triggered by the eye, y'all, okay? Because I know if you watch some conspiracy theorist channels and the Illuminati, and you stay away from everything Illuminati, listen, okay? It's called meditation. Got the eye on it, right? So this will be the one that we'll read. So I'm debating whether I want to read this one first after we read this next one, or read this one, right? I'm really debating. They're both really good. And I'm trying to see the order of which mindset to use. This is the more scientific one, but it's really good the way it's explained. It's really understandable. Anybody can read and understand it, right? It gives more scientific stuff, but this also gives really good, believe it or not, scientific information that's really understandable, but things you can actually test, and it's relatable, just like this one is, because they're running tests and stuff. But I'm telling you, and this is by, like I said, that was by My Big Toe. It's called My Big Toe, and it's actually a trilogy. If you go get it, make sure you get the first book of the trilogy. It's called Awakenings. The second and the third book look almost the same way, but the second book is called Discovery, and the third book is called Inner Workings. You can get all 3. It's up to you, but we're going to read Awakenings first. We may get to the second and third book of his trilogy, but I don't think not just yet. Maybe when we up, maybe in a year, because I think I want to spend a solid year on this principle so we can test it, we can look at it, right? So even if you choose not to pray in tongues at all doing this next year, at least you will have more than enough information where you can make a good solid decision on whether this gift is worth trying to tap into or not, right? And some of you may find that while even if you don't have one that's been downloaded to you from the Spirit of Yah, where some people it have been, or you just heard one on the inside of you and just begin to speak it, you will find that that will probably happen to you, right? Because people hear different ones and they'll switch it from the one language to the next. Now, here's something I can tell you about the language that's downloaded when you pray in tongues. So like I said, if you don't have a tongue, in yesterday's video, I showed you what you can do that will net you the same results, right? And you can pull it straight from Torah. You can pull it from, you don't even have to get it from Psalms or Proverbs. Pull it from anywhere in scripture, right? You can pray it in English, or you can change the English to whatever language you want to change it in. The point is not in what you're saying. It's you focusing yourself and quieting yourself down to be able to hear from the other realm, or to be able to tap into the frequencies around us. And that's what the sound does. So people who meditate, and they call them primordial creation sounds, like om or aim, or the ones with the chakras to align your chakras, like Lam, Ram, Vam, whichever one it is, you get to the throat chakra, all those things. And when you get to the ether up here above the crown chakra, it's just complete meditation and quiet. A lot of people don't get to the complete meditation and quiet until they're able to calm down everything about themselves and around themselves and completely become non-distracted, become not distracted by the world around them, and they just completely tied into Yah, or to the source of creation, where he can speak freely. And when you tap in there, that's when your open visions and hearing and all these out of body experiences begin to happen. And praying in tongues or meditating or mantra is a way to tap in there. And in other cultures, what over here we would deem to be psychic powers or superpowers, in India they call it reaching Siddhi, right? Siddhi, Siddhi. um but they did it the way they reach Siddhi is through a scientific method, by counting the repetitions, right? And so I began to understand that, because remember, before I even started talking about this, I said when I pray in tongues for long periods of times, normally when I get to about that in one sitting, and while I'm sitting like my all-nighter prayers, I would notice it. When I get to about the 6th hour to the 8th hour, it's like my spiritual gifts, they pop open. Like I can see into the spirit, I can hear in the spirit, right? In India, in other cultures, they call that reaching Siddhi. Or they said when you sit and do that, or you focus yourself in one sitting in long periods of times, psychic powers tend to come to you, or you get psychic powers. And instead of saying psychic powers, they say you've reached Siddhi, where you've actually tapped into the unseen realm, and you can see information that people who are not there on that frequency can readily see, right? That's what praying in tongues does, y'all. When I was able to start connecting all this together, I decided to, they call them mala beads, prayer beads or whatever. I got me a set. And if you were here, if you were paying attention, if you know what those are, you may have seen me wear those. Those are the purple beads on my wrist, right? They have different charms in between each set of so many that lets you know where you're at on the count. During that time, when you see me wearing those, I was testing this principle based on what I already knew about me praying in tongues for 6 to 8 hours or longer. What would happen, if it would happen, if I actually counted the repetitions. Now, when I was counting them, I was still using my prayer language, because I have a string of words or a sentence. It's like 3 sentences that I'll pray in another tongue. And so each repetition I would count, right? Every time I said those 3, it'll be in the same order. I would repeat those 3. That would be 1. I would repeat those 3 lines in my prayer language, and that's 2. And the beads are like 108. So I would count just to see how many it was. And it would average about to maybe, okay, so for different, it just depends. It would average, I would do more than like 10,000, way more than 10,000 recitations or counts of what I was praying. And so what they found out in meditation and other cultures, that if you take one word, right, one power word, and you recite it 10,000 times a day, say like the word, or the word or the sound, aim, or yeah, aim. It's spelled like aim, A-I-M, but it's really the feminine form of Om. So it's like Om or Aim. Whether you were saying Aim or you were sounding it out in sound or song, it will have the same, you experience the same thing. And but you would have to repeat that 10,000 times a day for a period of 10 days for your superpowers to kick in, or your psychic powers, or that level of Siddhi to kick in, or in Christian terms, before being able to see and hear in the spirit, amongst other things. I can even smell smells, right? um I would have to at least do that for a sustained period of 10 days without a break. Without a break. Holy crap, that's what was happening. So no wonder it was averaging about the same thing. Okay, my 6 to 8 hours, then my spiritual gifts, I call them spiritual gifts, or seeing in the spirit, whatever, would pop in after that long period of time. Because if I counted, it would equal to around about the same amount of repetitions. Where if somebody who was scientifically counting through it just to see what actually happened, and it happens either way. That's why I told you it's not really about what you say, although it matters, but it doesn't really. The whole point is focus and concentration, and bringing yourself in line with Yah himself, to where he can begin to speak to you and you can hear clearly, because he always speaks clearly. It's just us, our hearing being impeded where we can't hear, right? And I'm taking us through these levels of these things, teaching y'all how I did it, so you can get closer to Yah, so your prayers can be answered faster. If you ask him a question, you know how it's like, oh my gosh, my prayers don't ever seem like they being answered. It probably have been. You probably just can't hear nor see your answer being given to you. And that's what I began to see. It aligns me more to Yah. I'm more on that frequency, so to speak, where he is. And I can hear the answers to my prayers. I'll see it. I have a dream about it. Something that happened. Sometime it might be a puzzle or something that I have to put together to see the answer, right? But it makes life a whole lot easier. So do I feel that's why the RC says the rosary? The Roman Catholics, some of them, yes. But some of them, they ignorant. And it's like they fall in the category of the holy poly. Like the whole, what is it? The hoi polloi, right? The common mass of people that really don't understand why that's really being used in the first place. And a lot of time, if they tell them to do it, if they're not a good teacher, and especially if they weren't taught well, they're just gonna pass it down. You're just doing something because this is what we do, not realizing from the very beginning that was helping people to keep track of when they would actually tap in to be able to hear Y'all. Little King Josiah right here. He been begging for me to get him a crown and a scepter, so I got him one. And why would I get him one like ancient Egyptian? Because I understand what the staff of ancient Egyptians mean. I mean, you don't dare try and step against the power of a righteous king. He'll bite you like a cobra, right? So, but I'm teaching my children about this too. And they, they were really righteous kings and pharaohs up to a certain point, and they didn't want anything but righteousness around them, because they realized that's how they were able to rule righteously and judge nations righteously, by being in tune with the most holy, being on his frequency always, being able to walk in the spirit, like the church people would say 24/7. They were able to tap into that and stay hooked into it. Once you reach the level of Siddhi or psychic powers, or walking in the spirit, there is a way to maintain it. You just have to make sure that you hit that, you take that time every single day and pray, right? Once you build up the momentum and it kicks in, it will stay kicked in if you continue practicing, continue setting aside that time to get into the presence of Y'all. Like I said, let's start with 24 minutes. We done been here 3 years. Ain't no way in the world you shouldn't be able to do 24 minutes. I don't care. It's when you first open your eyes. It should be when you first open your eyes. It don't have to be. But it has been proven and tested within the hours of 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, wherever you live, right? Because it could be whatever. With your time, 6 a.m., no matter where in the world, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, when the world around you is quiet, it's easier to tap in. It's easier to get into that flow. It's easier to hear. I hear a lot during those times. I keep track of my dreams, not just my dreams, but the time and days I have them. And there is a consistent flow that I hear and see things between those time periods. It's rare that I'll hear or see anything outside of those time periods unless it's something like an emergency or something, or I doze off and I see something. Oh snap, let me call such and such, right? So y'all, we're gonna get into it, we're gonna learn it. Okay, so but yeah, so Gil said I'll try and stick around, but I'm leery. I don't know if you're still here even right now, Gil. Just stick around, right? Pray. Pray. Ask y'all to lead and guide you, right? I'm just saying, at least hear the whole matter out, right? Before you just decide to, you know what, this is not for me. And if you decide, you know what, this is not for me, that's okay. Maybe you need to grow in other areas before you can move to this next level, this particular level, right? And that's okay. Something I did want to say, and I'm gonna get out of here. Oh my gosh, we're 2 hours. I'm surprised my husband ain't called me. If you do have a prayer language that has been downloaded to you, if you want to test other words, words of power, that's okay. But what I do know is whatever your prayer language, if you have one that's been downloaded to you, that you've been praying, that particular prayer language is very specific for you. And whatever it is in your life that you have need of, or however you're going to grow, Yahuwah can reveal to you what it means, and he will if you ask him, right? You just got to be tapped in so you can hear it and understand. But that particular one that you heard that was downloaded into you, it's very specific to you and what you need in that season of your life, and you should use it often. Use it often. And when you are healed from whatever it is, or you've grown, or you've been enlightened, or you whatever it is that you needed for that season, when you get that, you notice your prayer language will change to something different, and it'll go and it'll hit something else. So for those who don't have it, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to use until it kicks into what Yah wants you to focus on. So like I said yesterday, if it's courage you need, you pick and choose. You can kind of pick and choose until you hit the point where Yahuwah downloads, okay, pause from that, let's work on this. This is what we need to attack before you can grow any further. So with that being said, y'all, let me go ahead and end this. To the baby, before you scoop that, let's come on in. Let's do this blessing, y'all. I done said a whole lot. I did not expect to be up here this long today, even talking about this. I was gonna just get in here and get this done. I've been running my mouth for 2 hours. Lord help me. But for those of y'all that stuck around, thank you. I hope you ain't getting in trouble at work. If you at work, maybe it's your day off. Maybe you were able to whistle while you work, and you can just like listen while you work or whatever. But girl, what is wrong with you?
Can you just on the video?
Y'all heard my boss. I love y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. The blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verse 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and he will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order. And he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m.
Let me see your push-ups.
Peace. All right, girls, I'll end it. Thank y'all for hanging out this long. Y'all the real MVPs. Come on, girl, go end this, girl. See y'all tomorrow.
I said you wasn't. I said you wasn't my mom.
I ain't your mom. Why would you say that? You don't want me to be your mom?
Again.